Was it a good time off?
That's how important you are.
It's really the other guy who's, I think, out in the parking lot coming in, right?
Yes, we had a great time.
Good, good.
I'm glad to see everybody's appropriately dressed.
Yeah, now I don't feel guilty. I was gonna wear
We
pants
don't
on.
have air conditioning at home either because we have an old house that has no AC, and we're like dying.
Oh, my
The
God.
basement, brutal.
Yeah, I just stood in the basement for like.
You know, you got these portable units you can get.
Yeah.
and then
No,
those
we
are
had
a pain
it
in the
broke.
ass, I'll tell you.
So we went out all weekend trying to find some. I ordered some on Amazon. Hopefully
Ah,
they'll
there
be
you
here
go.
soon.
Yeah, I made the mistake of putting them downstairs every winter.
Hey,
Hi. I would think.
All right, thanks, Scott. Good evening, everyone. The time is 5:46. It is Monday, June 23rd, 2025, and it is freaking hot outside. The Charter Review Committee has a quorum. All 6 members are here and present. Therefore, I declare this meeting to be commensurated. Since we got the meeting minutes at 2:48 this afternoon, do we want to defer approving them till the next meeting, which we certainly can, or is everybody comfortable in approving them? I have not reviewed them. So I will say that, but I will defer,
To it at all.
I'm sorry,
I had no objection to the minutes.
okay? Paul, are you good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm ready to approve the minutes.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 9th?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I will, since I have not read them. Therefore, the meeting minutes of June 9th have passed and are approved. Can we have any brief Workstream updates and comments? My understanding is, well, I know for a fact things went extremely well as far as Paxton days are concerned. How did things go on the town meeting?
We dropped off the flyers. That was our direction when I got there. So we left them at the tables and people were taking them. So it didn't get on the PowerPoint.
No, it wasn't the PowerPoint. I think it was understandable, it wouldn't have felt right. They had their
Yeah.
own slide with scans for the meeting, which was, so they didn't.
All right, but were the newsletters in general distributed well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else you guys want to share relative to the town meeting? As I have no view into what happened.
Well, there was a proposal for an override, just under half the previous override that was met with significant support.
And that was in addition to the proposed budget?
That was amending the proposed budget.
Yes.
So it was adding 2.5% to the proposed budget.
For certain line items, a lot of line items, very appropriately.
It was pretty much level funded from last year's budget,
Okay,
with like a 0.5%, with certain,
yeah.
you're in the finance.
Yeah, that's correct. That's spot on. That's
So, and it's half, so when people say like, oh, we already said no 3 times, it's half of what the previous override.
It's not the same. but
Okay.
Well, it's a citizen petition versus
Yep.
one that's, but yeah, so it's different.
So I think people saw that the cuts were gonna make Paxton less than it is now. It was gonna make the town people wouldn't wanna live in or work in, and I think citizens felt there had to be some middle ground. And it was literally middle ground, so hopefully, I think tonight, the select board will decide if there's gonna be an election and when that would be to pass, because it passed town meeting, now it has to pass an election.
Vice Chair, would you like to take over and ask for specific Workstream updates? Sure.
One thing I'd just like to comment on, the continued effort to get publicity out there. You may have seen it if it hasn't or already arrived at your residence, but the Community Paxton News has, I think it's on the 3rd page in, has a nice little thing that you'll recognize. We're glad to see that happened. Mr. Button, Look, I was trying to think of a good name to use for you, like consigliere. Do you have anything you would like to discuss?
I don't think I have anything pressing at the moment.
Or both
Can I
of
ask
our
a question?
lead member?
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Vice Chair? Paul, where did the response or suggestion box come
That's
from?
that's a good question. It's in my garage, and I'm wondering if it has a permanent place. If there's somewhere that we could, if we want to have the next edition of the newsletters available in a place, we could have them on that. And then again, if there's survey or anything on the back of it to return, it could be put back where it was put. So I don't know what the intention was when we wanted to make the box, or if that was an idea of where it should reside, but.
Does anybody have any thoughts on whether or not we should leave it in our possession, or should we install it at the, either at the library, at the town hall for suggestions, and then obviously we can move it around with us when we have our own events?
I'm wondering. I mean, what if we floated it through a few places? I start with the town offices, put it right at the desk there with the copies of the newsletter. People can still add suggestions, and then move it to the next month to another high-traffic place like the library, or I don't know.
The White Building might be good too.
Oh, yeah, the White
for
Building.
Senior citizens.
All right.
Any thoughts on that particular?
I think that those are all good thoughts.
Okay.
I think we start with the town, we go to the library, we go to COA, and then we see where we are at that point in time.
Chuck, anything?
No, I agree with everything.
Anything?
So we start at town hall. How long do we leave it at town hall? A month?
I would.
A month. Okay.
So we're going,
Publicize where it's going.
Yeah.
so
that makes sense.
in terms of our own process, you're having meetings with the select board on an individual basis, right? And that's the beginning of July.
It is the first full week of July. I have all five scheduled.
And then we begin doing our own task, probably through the end of August. So it seems to me that we try, and then come September, we're going to be going back to our, in the individuals that we've met with. So I think we time it based upon that whole process. So if we have really now July and August, try and transition it between the town, the library, and the COA between July and August, and then come September, we gather all the information that we have from them, and we use that as part of our process.
Should we put all of that together in one big motion to proceed in that manner?
I'm not sure we need a motion for it, but
Well, let's do it, just so the record looks nice.
okay. So I move that we take our suggestion box and we rotate it through the town hall, to the library, to the COA during the course of July and August, in terms of our internal process that will align itself with our next steps.
Second?
I second the motion, yeah.
Anybody want to voice any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstainers? Mr. Chair, I think the motion just passed.
I believe so.
Do we have more copies of the newsletter that we can put right with it?
We do.
Great.
Paul, are you going to install it at the town hall?
I can stop by and see if they have a suitable place. I'll update the committee with the specific location so we can broadcast it in all of our channels.
I know Donna and Lori are very anxious
Oh.
to have it at town hall.
Oh, great.
They both expressed that at Paxton Days.
Great. Hopefully anxious in a positive.
Yes, very positive.
In the 3 minutes that are left, anything that needs to be discussed, either new or old business?
I think we had a good meeting with the Conservation Commission. Healthy conversation. And I think that there's a lot of things that some of these committees don't even realize that they can do, that they don't do just because there's not enough communication and guidance to allow that to happen. So,
Excellent.
I'd also point out one thing, that the Conservation Committee was also composed of a number of people that have voiced an interest in the past relative to the Agricultural Committee, which is now part of the town bylaw, having been approved by all the required legalisms. And so I think we're going to see some more action on the idea of getting this thing going. Because if you look at the statute, it does not provide for an option. It says the shall be, the town of Paxton shall have. And that's just about as definite as anything gets legally. So. Wow. Nothing else to say? Yo.
I have an update. With tonight's 3 committee joint meeting, the 3 committees being the Path Vocational School Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Capital Improvements Committee, we have 2 remaining that we need to complete to, in effect, complete our task by the end of June. The good news is the last 2 remaining committees, in good standing and active, are scheduled for this Thursday, the 26th. We have the DPW Building Committee, and we have the Zoning Bylaws Committee. In effect, that means by June 30th, we will have, and enter our phase 1 as defined by our workflow, we will have completed all interviews. That nets to over 200 people interviewed, as well as completing all the requisite input that we had outlined as required relative to our process. In addition, we've also had 20 residents provide us input through various means. So, all good news. And again, we are now going to move in July to our second phase, which is information sharing, where we will create the new draft of the charter. We'll go back through, as Gary has outlined, in September with all of the stakeholders to make sure that they understand and approve or provide appropriate amendments to the new charter. We will then present it to the select board, and at year end, we will then move to our final phase, which is our transparency tour, where we will turn our focus inward or from the inward stakeholders to the external stakeholders, that being our residents. So right now, I would share that we are on schedule. Chairman Love, welcome. You have a seat of honor at the table next to Mr. Wenzel, please. Thank you. That concludes my update.
Anything else?
So 2 things. One is, I think there should be some kudos to the chair for his diligence in making sure that we did all that we had to do through the end of June.
Really?
So thank you for doing that. It's
You're
well
more than
appreciated.
welcome.
And in terms of the summer meetings, do you have a sense as to what our cadence is going to be, knowing that people may be away for holidays and vacation and stuff?
As we discussed, and I think it's a good idea, and I think we've approved it, or at least discussed and said it was a good idea in a previous couple of meetings ago, maybe. I believe we need to hold joint meetings where multiple commissions, boards, committees actually come together in a room for a joint meeting, and we cover the material as opposed to individually, because my fear is, like you, we're not going to be able to complete that schedule in time for our end of year.
And I meant just enjoying in August between all of us. Are we still meeting every 2 weeks, or is that going to be changing?
No, I believe it's in our best interest to keep the cadence.
Okay.
I have reached out, and the 3 who are creating the new charter are going to begin working starting next week we will be meeting in a cadence where we will begin to put to pen and paper the new charter based upon all of the feedback that we have received to date. And that process is going to begin next week. Okay?
Anything else from anybody? Motion to adjourn?
We do not adjourn.
We do not adjourn.
We do not adjourn.
We want to have a...
I have to point out, we have a public resident in attendance. He is actually a good friend. Mr. Forrest, would you like to say anything, or are you here only to listen?
He's a member of the CIPC.
He is a member of the CIPC. I stand corrected. All right.
Forrest, would you like to have this chair?
Mark, it does not look like you have a quorum.
We don't, and I want to initially apologize for being overdressed by having long pants on this evening.
I'm just grateful you don't have a tie on. I don't look like a complete bum.
I was going to say, Chairman Love, I'm impressed that you don't have a tie on.
I know, so
And it's 100 degrees outside. I'm really impressed.
Once it's 95 degrees, it comes off.
Okay.
I conversed with the town clerk today, and she suggested that if we don't have a quorum, we shouldn't call the meeting to order, but we are perfectly well to converse and dialogue and meet with you and
Absolutely.
thoughts without the need for a vote. So we're here. Others that are not here send their regrets, but they've been before you under various other capacities with other committees that they serve on. So that's why they felt that they'd leave it to those that have not yet met.
I certainly recognize that relative to their capital improvements. However, the only one that I know of on the Finance Committee that has met with us previously is Tony.
But there's several.
Mr. Richards, it's a pleasure to see your smiling face.
See you, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Would you like to come up and join us, please?
Yeah, sure. No, I don't.
Question for clarification. Our charter review committee is now motioned to adjourn.
We are not motioned to
Are
adjourn.
we continuing our meeting minutes?
Correct.
With the
We
second,
are now moving to the portion of the joint meeting between the
and we
committees.
want minutes for that.
Correct. Yes, we do. All right.
Also, too, I don't know everyone's name.
Forrest, please, join us by a microphone, please.
And introduce.
Yep.
All right.
I neglected to mention that Forrest is a charter member of CIPC on the original committee.
And has since joined you again?
Hasn't left.
You never left? Wow, that is impressive.
Fred Goodrich.
A lifetime ago, huh, Forrest? All right. Mark, since you cannot, this is the portion of the meeting that we have dedicated for the three committees, and we do have representation for all three. We've asked them to come and share their thoughts. I believe it would be appropriate for us to at least share a little bit for those that have not listened to our repeated overview of what we're doing. And the rest of you who have, we beg your indulgence. I guess for many years now, as it was explained to me, the Select Board has as one of its objectives and goals for the year was to effectively look at the town charter of 2013 and enact a process and/or group to go and review said charter and to either review and amend or write a brand-new charter. It has been on their goals for at least 3 years that I'm aware of, per former Chair Julia. That being said, The select board called through the town administrator for 7 individuals, residents of the town, who held no other position within the town, could not be an employee, could not be an official, whether appointed or elected, could not sit in any board, committee, or commission. It had to be 7 residents who would come together and objectively review the existing committee, which was approved and passed in 2013, and begin the process of either amending and/or rewriting. In December of last year, 7 residents came forward and were approved by the select board to be the initial charter review committee. Our first meeting was on January 13th. 2 weeks later, we presented at the select board our intent and our process on how we were going to go about it. And since then, the 7 of us, until we lost Tara in February, I want to say?
It was January.
Was it the end of January?
Yeah.
We lost one of our members due to a family medical emergency. She had to take care of existing family, so we lost Tara. We have since operated with 6 of us from that point on. I will ask the 6 people to introduce themselves if you do not know them, so that you have a name with a face. You obviously all know me. I'm Steve Robesco. I was duly appointed chair in January, and I was just reelected to remain chair for another term. Mr. Johnson?
I am the vice chair, I'm duly appointed and elected and serving, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity to meet, especially with the 2 of you. You were my first 2 choices. You are my first 2 choices, and if there was only 2 choices that I could have, I would want you 2 to be the people of those choices to have before us.
And do they know your name, David?
I think I said.
Yes,
Okay, all right,
thank you very much.
all right.
Okay, I'm Megan Puglisi, and I am the current secretary, although soon to be Paul. And I handle or work on with Chuck a lot of the communication efforts to reach all of the people in town outside of the work that Steve and Gary are doing to reach committee members and employees.
I'm Chuck Putney, 2 Ledyard Road, and I'm happily serving on the committee, working with Megan and the rest of our committee members.
Gary
And
Goldberg?
I'm sorry, and Chuck is our technical engineer.
Engineers is strong word.
He's
Hey,
technical.
I can give titles out left and right. Consigliatore Goldberg, please.
Gary Goldberg, nice to meet you.
Could we hear that in the mimic voice, please?
And I'm Paul Bertler. I'll be the secretary going forward.
And Paul is our carpenter and builder of all things wonderful and imaginary. Mr. Forrest, you want to introduce yourself?
Forrest Smith, and as I was spoken earlier, member of capital improvement, have been since it was initiated.
Jeremy Richard, member of Finance Committee for about 3 years now. I've been on EDC, and I've been a registrar with town for about 10 years.
Jeff Wenzel, on Finance Committee and Bay Path. That's why I'm at this table, because I'm on Bay Path and Zoning Board. So thanks for having me.
Mark Love, member of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee and the Finance Committee.
And Mark serves as the chair for both committees, correct, sir?
Correct.
All right, excellent. Over our process, in the last 6 months, we have interviewed, as I said, over 200 folks. We started with the town officials, starting with all of the select board, as well as the town moderator. We then moved to all of the town department managers and their leads. Then we talked to every employee group in town. We then focused our efforts on interviewing and attending every committee, board, and commission meeting where we sat and introduced what we were doing, provided them updates on what our efforts were, and asked them to provide input. What we hope from you tonight is to get your honest input and impression as you and other members that we call stakeholders can impact the content of the charter that we are in process of creating. We are calling this charter the Paxton Constitution, for in a sense, that's exactly what it is. It will define our governance and government structure. It will define the processes, the workflows, the reporting relationships, the interdependencies, and definition of each entity that provides a product and service to this community at large. And I have stressed this, and we all feel this way, I believe, in articles written and in public speaking, that in effect, the select board may have appointed us, but we work for the town of Paxton. We work for the community. And that community includes everyone I talk to, but more importantly, the residents as well. We are representing their best interests. And so we have taken this task and this mission very seriously. We will continue to be very forthright, transparent, and communicative in everything we do. As I said, we're going to start July 1, something called information sharing. We move from information gathering to sharing, where we will construct the new charter and then come back to all of you, you stakeholders, and have you review our work. In addition, before we do that, before we come out to you, we're going to do our own internal review. We're going to do our own, and we divided our committee up into 2 groups. 3 people will be authors, 3 people will be very critical and constructive criticism critics in reviewing the document to make sure that A, it meets all of the intent of the feedback that has been given to us, but as well, it represents the people in the best light and provides not only for an immediate impact to the town to improve its position and bring it to currency and improve its effectiveness, efficiency, and transparency, but it also positions us for the future of the town as well. In addition to the charter, we are providing 3 additional documents for review, and they will start with an internal review one-on-one with each of the 5 select board members individually. The first is a list called recommendations. These are recommendations that we have heard consistently for change, that have an appropriate action item defined with it, that we believe the select board needs to embrace and approve, many of which will go into the charter as a change for the town. The second document is something called observations. This is a group of items that may or may not have an action item associated with, but a strong recurring theme in everyone we talk to, things that people want the select board or leadership to be aware of, because it's appropriate that they do so as leaders, not only as the select board leaders, but also as department managers, etc. All right? The third document for review will be a revised organizational chart based upon what we feel to be requisite based upon our content and its delivery, as well as specific recommendations. With that, I'll stop and ask, gentlemen, do any of you have any questions?
No, the only thing I'll add is that I think it's a great idea. It's all great, but it's a great idea with the organizational chart. That's a really nice ad. I think that's good stuff.
Steve and committee members, I have a question. The first part of it was recommendations. What happens if there's a strong position of all the committee members and a recommendation is put forward that also was put forward by an interested citizen or a board member or a committee member or something of that nature, and it's met with resistance at the select board level? What happens then?
Let me answer the question in two parts. Number one, we would never put forth as a recommendation a single person's view or recommendation. It would have to be a recurring theme, something we've heard over and over. Secondarily, taking into consideration that we have put it pen to paper and it is a recommendation, we stand behind the recommendation because we will, in representing that recommendation, we have factual data that substantiates our position. If it meets resistance at the select board member level, we will still put it in the charter. It will go before everyone through our process, and absolutely at the last, the select board group will have the opportunity to review it. But understand at that point, and now we're talking late 2025, that we will have substantive backing for said recommendation because it's been approved, and we will ask the select board to accept it. Now, they may try to revise verbiage to make it more palatable, but in the end, as I've shared with you, Mark, we work for the community and all members, not just the select board. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much, yes. Yep.
Okay.
I just wouldn't want to see a really good recommendation from this committee endorsed by others outside of this committee that gets
Our intent
kicked to the curb.
is not to happen, period.
Steve, I
And we will take a strong position.
have a follow-up. Mark, to your question, a little bit more into the weeds with it, if I may. The select board ultimately will hopefully draft and submit a warrant that will be reviewed, and that warrant will have what we put in it. And what we put in it will be a synthesis of what we've heard from everybody. If there's a strong, incentive for some particular topic or policy or procedure that the select board say, no, you can't have this, there is still an opportunity, and I think we saw it at the town meeting this year. Even though the select board may not put it in their warrant, there is nothing to stop the citizens of Paxton, who are registered voters, for introducing an amendment to that. And beyond that, if it doesn't appear there, that can be done in two ways. It can be done at the town meeting by a motion, or it can be done by an initiative petition. And that would be something similar to what was done that led to the select board having suddenly in the middle of a term 5 members instead of 3 members. But rest assured that if there is something that is there and the select board don't approve something that we recommend, then we will all gather our roughs and go talk about what to do next. But we're not without alternatives.
Including ourselves putting forth a motion at the town meeting. The committee itself would put forth the recommendation.
We have a question.
Mr. Badges,
Hello there. I just want to follow up. I just came in a little bit late, so I apologize for that. But One of the things that I saw took place this year at the annual town meeting was there were concerns that the amendment to the budget, which ended up finally going through, had to be, I'll use the word, screened or reviewed by town council that evening at the meeting. So if I understand correctly what we just heard, what I just heard, I won't speak we, you're going to put forward your recommendation in terms of what the new charter should look like. If the select board might choose to modify it in some way that may not be pleasing to the town, the concerns, the citizens, whatever, you're asking that an amendment be made, but it's my understanding now that that would have to go before town council before we got to the meeting, and again, we get into all.
If I may?
Certainly.
Number one, the select board will not change the verbiage of the charter.
Okay,
The charter creation belongs to these 6 members.
right, that's, I'm glad.
At
to hear.
one point, at no point do we abdicate that responsibility.
Okay,
Period. End of story.
all right.
Now, if they don't like something in the way it is worded, and we cannot make a compromise
Well,
We will-
before or during?
before, we will still put it forth, and if they choose not to accept, they have that voting right.
Right, they would say disapprove at this point.
Correct.
Okay.
But if finance approves and other committees approve, or whatever, we will stand, if we feel strongly in our position,
Okay,
we will stand and do that. And I've made that perfectly clear, so we have made that perfectly clear from the get-go.
okay.
So I think, Steve, wait.
At the outset, excuse me, Jeff, let me finish.
Yeah.
At the outset, we were made extremely clear relative to our objective, because all of us in the first meeting were not sure what latitude we had. And at the time, in January 27th, team, correct me if I'm wrong, but we heard from then member committee, you have a blank piece of paper. Everything is everything is open. You have no restrictions. Am I correct?
Yeah.
No, and I remember when you came to the planning board, of which I'm a member of, because we've already had our joint meeting with you,
Correct.
that was stated that way.
Correct.
It's just, let's just say history serves that at times things get, I'll use the word modified or amended or whatever. I know this year with the annual town meeting, I was asked to come in twice to speak of the first 2 warrant articles regarding the zoning changes. And there was some discussion as to the wording of those warrant articles. And we did come to a consensus that, yes, this is fine. Nothing major, but it's just the fact that it was reviewed, we submitted it, it was reviewed again, and we had a meeting 2 weeks before the town meeting to discuss it again, to make sure that everybody was on the same page. And I just want to make sure that I agree with the way you're approaching this. Blank sheet of paper, write what we think or what we hope we hear, and I'm, again, 100% behind that. But it may get a little bit, I'll use the word diluted or modified, I'll use that, as the process continues to arrive at the warrant article. I'm all in favor of the independent.
May I suggest 2 things? Number one, relative to the diligence that we're doing, we're not going to put forth something that has been lightly suggested. We are putting forth where we have heard consistently,
Perfect. Okay.
this needs to change. Number 2, we have our vice chair, who is, with all of us, reviewed no less than 30-plus other charters,
Okay,
considered well charters, approved.
35, actually.
I did 30-plus. In addition, we've always also reached out to the state to get their guidance. We also have communicated to our state senator and our state representative, and we have their backing,
okay.
okay? I don't believe for 1 second that there is going to be a strong argumentative position, if I may, by any of the five. And if that's what we encounter, I will be surprised. But if so, we will again meet it with an appropriate and objective. This is what we've heard from a significant portion. When I say significant, I'm talking greater than 40% of the 220 people we talked to. And you better hear this, Select Board. You know we have a problem in this town. There's a problem of questionable integrity, of perceived honesty. Okay, we need to make changes to create an environment that's holistic, that everyone believes in their leadership once more. And now I'm speaking passionately as a resident and former committee member of many committees, like Mr. Richard, been on many committees. Okay? The point is, we're not going in with just an idle or unfounded recommendation. And we will have substantive reason for that recommendation. Okay?
No, and I commend that. That's what I'm hearing is what I want to hear. So I commend you for taking that stand. It's just a question as the process continues to unfold before we get to the draft. I want to make sure that you still have the teeth in it, because
Right.
perception, I'm just going to speak as I'll speak as a committee member first, planning and capital improvement, and then also as a resident, the perception is selectmen, select board, because we've changed its notifications, its naming, at times does not want to lessen the control or the reins that they have over certain items.
Understood.
And that's one of the things that I think you may get some pushback on. But I want you to go dig in and say, this is what the recommendation is based on input we've had from citizens, committees, and everybody else, the state legislature, everybody.
And what I will additionally share with you, which I was remiss in doing up till now, starting the first full week of July, I will meet with each select board member individually
Okay.
to review those 3 documents.
Okay.
So I will get Mr. Bertler and I will meet with all of them
Perfect.
individually. A, they will not be in a group to gang up on us, they will be individual. And B, we will get a sense of their understanding and acceptance or their reluctance early on. That gives us a position to better address downstream.
Again, I commend you for this undertaking and the process that has unfolded so far. I think it's excellent.
Thank you.
The proof will be when we get to the end next May. That's it.
Or later. By the way, Neil, we're still waiting. We met with you in March. We're still waiting for your committee feedback.
And we'll have, but listen, we had to.
Last one, I think.
We had to get through the zoning thing, and we have not, as of last Monday, we are through that.
Excellent. We look forward to your input.
Chuck.
Chuck?
I just want to comment, I'm optimistic that it's not going to get to May. I think we're going to, because of the diligence of this committee, the diligence of people who have submitted very thoughtful feedback throughout, it's been a very collaborative process. I'm not saying there won't be pushback, but I think, as Steve indicated, we stand on very solid ground in terms of the recommendations and stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and I think it's been collaborative, and I think the select board will recognize that and recognize the outcomes of this committee. So I'm optimistic it's not, there won't be a curveball in May.
I mean, everything that I've read, and I've watched some of your meetings, not all of them, because I like that they're recorded, and I get to watch them after the fact, but I think you've taken on a monumental task. And I'm thrilled with right now what is taking place. As I said, thus far, it's go, go, go. So let's see what happens.
Mr. Baggis, I have one comment, just so that we can clarify this.
Yes, sir.
First of all, what happened when at the town meeting, when it was the man who proposed the article, had it reviewed by the town moderator, and then went to the town attorney, council.
Council, right?
That was something that was done by the legislative branch. Okay, we have 2 branches of government in the state of Massachusetts and the town of Paxton. One is the executive branch, The powerful one is the legislative branch, and that's the public by way of a town meeting. What they were talking about when he said it doesn't fit the form was not the content. There couldn't and shouldn't have been any change to the content other than what was in the proposed amendment. That's an administrative thing, okay, that was asked. It's not in the proper form. You know that from seeing planning board documents and all that sort of thing, that if it doesn't have a certain paragraph or it doesn't answer a certain question that's required, you're not going to approve that permit, and it's going to go back for recreation. That's not going to ditch it. The select board are going to present a warrant. If their warrant isn't the warrant we firmly believe in, we can approach in 2 ways. We can even approach it in 3 ways. One is the initiative petition. We can just have it all out there, get 100 votes. They got 300 votes on the select board thing. I'm sure we can get 100 votes, considering we've talked to 200 people, and we know that we've got more than 100 people in there that are, you know, and now yourself, so 101.
There you go, thank you.
And we know your voice is strong. And the second thing is, the legislative branch, the select board won't be in a position to disapprove the amendment because the town meeting votes whether or not that amendment goes on there.
No, I understand, I guess, and we can debate this. and
No,
I'll
we're
give
not
you-
debating. I'm just giving you the procedure. Keep in mind that when we talk about legalisms, we have 2 lawyers on this committee.
Okay,
We have an Italian consigliere here, and
so yeah, all right.
and we have me, and I've had some experience.
Okay, I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is I happened to, at that meeting, I was sitting right behind town council.
Right.
And there were a lot of questions about, I'm gonna say, fit and finish, the way it was presented. It
Yes.
needed to be cleaned up. Thus, they had asked for, if you thought you were gonna do this, why couldn't we have seen a copy of this before tonight? And I guess that's that's the reason for the question. If we have to submit something that can be reviewed 2 weeks before the meeting, again, it's gonna get all discombobulated, and as I said, I want the.
Our intent relative to the process is going to be done, spit, polished, signed off, even by the select board.
Okay.
By the end of this year.
And keep in
Hear
mind,
me out. Then we go to the transparency tour,
Okay.
starting in 2026. Now we go out to all the residents who we haven't talked to yet. For God's sake, it's all done, buttoned and everything else. Now we're going to the public so we get the backing of the town meeting, whether it be May or later. All right? The point is, there should not be a surprise at the town.
No, as I said,
that was a surprise, but
It was. I mean, I go to town meetings, but I'm usually sitting in the back. The last couple of times I've had the ability or the luxury, let's say, of sitting up front and actually speaking. Sometimes not to my liking, but that's okay.
Okay.
But the other night, when I heard what took place, I'm thinking, if it's a citizen's request, which it appeared to be,
it was.
why did it have to be reviewed prior to the meeting?
I think that, you know, one thing, the citizen made an amendment to the budget. It had to be done line by line, it had to be done account by account, because it has to be done that way.
Okay.
He didn't make a 0.5% amendment to every account. That's why they read off every account one at a time and the actual dollar amount. That's what the law requires. It's got to be, the amendment has to be a warrant article that says how much each individual account is being raised, especially if it's for an override.
No, I understood, but I'm just saying I kept hearing the phrase from town, this isn't right, this isn't gonna fly, we can't do this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go. But they got it worked out.
Okay.
Bill, just keep in mind.
Could we get back to the charter?
Wait, can you guys take it offline, please? Thank you.
Move the question, we're moving the question. Lay it on the table.
Well, we have to stop everything and take a vote then.
So I just want to clean up my original point that raised this whole question, and that is, and Dave, Steve mentioned that Dave, and by the way, Chuck, I appreciate your optimism. I think you're more right than not, and I hope it comes to fruition. And I think that's good to say, because let's hope that's where it goes. But part of my motivation is the charter that you're reviewing is terrible. It's awful. It doesn't need a tweak. it needs a complete front-end alignment, and
Sir,
and
you're absolutely
with
right.
that big, massive change, potentially comes resistance. That's my hope. So I admire the process, I admire the undertaking, but the undertaking is massive because you're not working from a very good document. You're working from a very inferior document.
we have approached the select men or board, and all are in agreement. We are not reviewing and amending. We are trapped because it is nothing more than a job description for the town administrator.
Which will not be part of.
And, oh, by the way, if you looked at it, not one in any of the verbiage in that document is the word charter even mentioned. The word charter never appears. It does not have any of the defining of any of the groups in totality. It has no reporting relationship. It has nothing other than a job description for the TA and its interaction of that position with select board on certain items. Even that isn't in totality. So, scrapping it, it's gone, it's not existent.
I do have a point. We've heard a lot of times, and if you've watched any of these meetings and I happen to be speaking, I'm pretty sure I say it a million times every meeting. We don't have a charter.
Don't have what?
We don't have a charter. We have something that pretends to be a charter, looks in some cases like a charter, but I can tell you that the legal definition of charter is not met, in my opinion. Now, there may be other counsel out there, but be that as it. But keep in mind that we also have an opinion that was given to me from someone I know in the state, what are they, archivists. They're the ones that are in charge of keeping historical records of all legal documents relating to all 365 cities and towns, all of the counties, all of the state agencies, all of the official documents. Two things come out of that. One is that they did not find anything called the Paxton Charter. That's pretty good evidence that what was done, very good intentioned. At some point in time, it was addressing an issue then. We're trying to address issues that are going to be, that have occurred since that document became a bylaw, and since that document has been, worked upon, and people have told us what they don't like about that document. And I'm hoping to hear some comments from you guys, what you don't like about that.
Okay.
But just keep in mind that having a lawyer review things is not a bad thing, because everything is going to go to the Attorney General's office to be reviewed, no matter how it's done.
Well, the legislature first. All right, if I may,
It goes to the Attorney General.
we have 7 minutes to allow these people to speak. All right? Mark, is there anything else you wanted to add? You saw my response relative to what you shared.
Steve?
I actually shared it with a number of people in the room after I sent it to you, and I appreciate your feedback and your comments. I listed 4 or 5 things. I had actually seen Jeff's communication to the committee as well. Had I not seen it, I probably would have included a number of the things that he included, but I didn't want to be redundant. So I think you're getting some pretty good feedback from just 2 communications that I've read. I can't imagine what all the other interviews and communications that you're getting are telling you, but good for you, good effort, and can't wait to see the final product or the draft product.
Excellent. By the way, at no point are we sharing the source of any of the comments or content of what we present or what we provide to the select board. No one's name is associated, okay? And I stand in front of that select board, and I will take the arrows, but they're not getting any names out of me. Period, end of story.
That was a question I had, because again, I'd seen your survey, which I love. I saw your QR code, fantastic. That information is being kept to the committee.
Totally confidential. There are 6 people and 6 people only who can review it, relative to certain content or areas of content, max 3 people, 3 of us have ability to add or edit. All right? So it's very controlled. And that's done by our technical engineer who set the structure up.
That was my comment on that was, I mean, it's a great tool to get information from people who normally might not attend these meetings, or maybe people you didn't meet with, but there's a hesitancy for people who have to put down a name and an email address. Where's this gonna go and who's gonna see this? So that's fantastic that you've made that clear. That's
Great.
That's good.
Thank you.
The only, if I could, the other thing I just want to say, I mean, I said it in my letter to you folks, great job. I think you've dug deeper than Texas oil well on this issue, and that's just terrific. I think it needs to be done. I think some things I heard here about, you know, reporting structures and reporting lines and making that clear, I think is very, very important. And I know in my letter I touched on term limits. That should be a hot one for the town meeting floor. Actually, I say it's hot. I'm not sure it's going to be that controversial.
I would tell you, Jeff, it's not going to be.
Wait, it's not.
80%, 80 of the 200 plus people are calling for term limits.
80%?
80%.
Wow.
It is a
For being a
recurring
trailblazer.
thing we constantly hear with
Yeah.
everybody we talk to.
Yeah, and I think that that's good for a lot of reasons, right? And the amount of years, and is it all committees? I think it certainly should be some of the high-profile committees, select board, finance, zoning, planning, ones that have some serious power to them, maybe. It's not to negate other committees, but let's face it, we're talking the budget, we're talking hiring town administrators, we're talking, how many houses you can build on a lot, things like that. I think those certainly should have term limits, and again, the years and how that rotates, is up for debate. But that's actually good to hear. Great job, everyone, and thanks for having us.
Mark, I'd like to talk a couple of things that you brought up in the email. I'd like to kind of delve, but I can take that offline as opposed to, since we're kind of time restrained here.
You're welcome.
Fair enough.
I was a little disappointed that I didn't invoke more reaction on my circa 1890.
I laughed. All right,
There, I mean, do you remember?
Mr. Mr. Jeremy, do you have anything else you want to kind of share with us? What's your thoughts? I mean, what kind of things would you consider to be things that this town needs that are hot topics that you would want us to focus on?
Again, I think I agree with everyone in that really you're not working with a charter. You're working with something that was thrown together to address whatever the need was in 2013. And I think that the depth that you're going to, looking at other charters, getting feedback from hundreds of people that work in town, that are elected officials, that are appointed officials, that are residents, that are citizens, there's no better way to get where you need to be than doing that. So again, I've been following this process since the get-go, and you guys are doing it right. I mean, you've got a good recipe, you got some good ingredients, your product's gonna come out well, I think. I really,
Well, thank you.
I like the direction it's heading in.
All right, we appreciate that. Committee appreciates that. Forrest?
Just would agree with what's been said, and the thing that I commented would be how you brought up that you're going to go forward with something positive, and you have the statistics to back it. And I think that's a very good plan.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I noticed too, the appointment to your review committee, none of the members could be on an elected position or an appointed position.
Right.
So you're all basically,
Objective.
okay. But having said that, as this process unfolds or completes or whatever, we would love to have some of you put your name in the hat for some positions in town. Because it seems to be the same names just keep resurfacing and resurfacing. And
Term limits.
Neil,
Limits.
Neil, and Gru. We will ask you to table that and think about bringing that back up to us in, say, a year.
okay,
All right?
all right.
Because there are some things that we're recommending that may be of quite a surprise for you.
All right, 'cause I mean, it's great to have that fresh input. It's just incredible, so I'm thrilled with what's happening.
Thank you,
There
appreciate
you
it.
go, 640.
I think we have to add that in our calculation for the 80%, because I think you just push us over the top.
81.
By the way, we have also recommended that this doesn't take 7 years to amend. One of our recommendations is a fast path process be created to amend or add to the town charter once it's created, right? That it doesn't wait umpteen years, but that there's a formal process to actually do a full review and amendment every 5 years.
So you're going to create like a revision process at the end that says
Exactly.
something that you can, cut and paste what you want to change, put it before town meeting, and that's fantastic.
And it speaks to what we talked about. Not only are we trying to fix today, but we're trying to make sure that we stay on the path for the future. For the next 3 to 5 years. All right? With that,
We have an open motion on the floor.
can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate the input.
Six online.